But great to have you here. And we've got some special guests tonight that we've had all month. And we've got audio-visual magic going on here because I guess they're going to record their presentation. So we've got a group in the audience from the Monterey Skeptics and two representatives that are going to speak to you about who the Monterey Skeptics are and about something having to do with this world behind us, the moon. So how many people in the room were alive when the moon landings happened? So just a few of you weren't. So people that weren't alive when the moon landings happened, or supposedly happened, do you believe that they happened?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay, yes. We have one yes. What's that?
Yeah.
Okay, you were shaking your head no while you're saying yes, okay. And over here?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, hopefully you'll be more enthusiastic about your yes after this presentation because it kind of blows my mind that whenever I do research and try to come up with a, an article on the moon or a picture on the moon, inevitably what comes up are some people claiming that the moon landings never happened. And I don't know how this has seemed to kept its traction throughout the years, but there's still people out there on the internet, because you can do anything on the internet, claiming that the moon landings didn't happen. So James Green is here tonight to give you a presentation about moon hoaxes and kind of debunking that whole idea. But before he gets up, I'm going to introduce Susan Gerbic, and she's going to tell you a little bit about the skeptics and some of the work she does with Wikipedia, which has a really good page about the moon hoax. So here's Susan.
Okay,
hey.
Oh, sure. My name is Susan Gerbic, and I do run Monterey County Skeptics. There's several people here today. This is our last presentation for this month, and Andy has been really, really generous in allowing us to come in and talk to you. James has done a terrific job.
It saves me work. I have to do less talking. So.
James has done a terrific job. I'm so glad he took this on, and he's done a lot of research, so I think that you'll be able to get a good grasp of what some of the more common moon hoax things are and how to kind of, answer those questions. But Monterey County Skeptics has existed for many years here in Monterey County. We meet in Monterey. We also meet in Salinas. You can join us on Meetup or on Facebook. And we are very social. I would have to say that probably most everyone in here is a skeptic of some sort, because you're probably not likely to fall for just anything anybody tells you. You probably question what people are telling you. If somebody wants to sell you a car, or they have some really good, some scheme of some sort that sounds too good to be true, you're probably going to do a little research on it and try to look it up. And that's what we as skeptics do. We're not anti-science. We're not we are not climate science deniers or Holocaust deniers or any of those kinds of things. We're simply people who really want a little more evidence than probably just somebody's word for it, anecdotal evidence. We are interested in all kinds of different things. The people in our group have all kinds of different specialities. Mine is, I'm very interested in psychics. Some people are more interested in the political field, some people are more interested in UFOs, and and all together we come together, and we're just a good social group that likes to talk about critical thinking and how it's important and why it's important to society today. So one of the things I do outside of Monterey County Skeptics is I run a group called Guerrilla Skepticism on Wikipedia. I have a little over 100 people involved that are writing Wikipedia pages and rewriting Wikipedia pages for scientific skepticism, for pages that are about our scientists, because most science pages are well written, but the scientists and the organizations that the scientists are affiliated with, the astronomical societies, the medical field, all those aren't really all that well written. We believe it's very important that education is something that the only way you're going to reach people. And we feel that yelling at people, belittling people, telling them they're stupid is not going to work. people need to go and look for themselves and get some of their own information. And we know that people are most likely to go to Wikipedia. It's one of the first sources you get. Anybody here use Wikipedia? Okay. So Wikipedia is one of the first sites you go to. It just defaults to it because it's one of the most popular. It's the 5th most popular website in the world. Google, Yahoo, YouTube, Facebook, and then Wikipedia. So people are going to go there. And if you don't use Wikipedia, you're still getting it because the media is where they're getting their information, is going to Wikipedia a lot of the time and just almost copy-pasting it to the sources you're hearing in the news or in journal articles or wherever. So we're rewriting Wikipedia pages. We have recently just released several pages on astronomers. We've been doing a lot in Australia because the person who's been doing it is Australian, and he's really focusing on pages of famous astronomers, Bart Bach, Warren Crouch, Amanda Bauer, and quite a few others. We're also working a lot on vaccine pages. We're really trying to improve pages for people who are spokespeople for vaccines, as well as the organizations. Plus, we're also been working a lot on the anti-vaccine pages. So it's just important to get information out there. People can go to Wikipedia, never trust a Wikipedia page. Go to the citations at the bottom and do your own research. That's where Wikipedia is strong, is that you can start with Wikipedia for an overview, and then at the bottom you can find your citations and then go do your own research. And that's what we ask people to do. So it's a way of starting, and we think that it's important to get those pages done in great shape. So I'm going to introduce to you today is James Green, who's a member of Monterey County Skeptics. And if you have any questions about Monterey County Skeptics, you can please see me afterwards. You can Google us. My name is Susan Gerbic, and this is James.
We got a really cool logo up there.
Yay! Oh yeah, James just made this.
May I have the first slide, please? So, my name is James Green, and I am here to give a presentation asking the question, did we really land on the moon? And spoiler alert, yes we did. So we have the next slide. Why do people not believe we went to the moon? There are all kinds of reasons. This little cartoon up here, I think, you know, if they're a hoax, where did they go to? They were never in the rocket. How do you explain them bouncing lasers off the lunar lander? Part of the cover-up. Footprints on the moon, etched there by the laser. Now the point of that is you just keep going into the rabbit hole, down and down and down. They always got another excuse for why we didn't go to the moon. Now why? And there's some broad reasons why people don't believe we went to the moon. And one thing to consider for some of us who are a little older, we can remember a time before we went to the moon, in which time going to the moon was considered to be one of the most extraordinary, unbelievable, impossible things to happen. Pie in the sky. Well, the pie is the moon. You know, the moon hits your eye like a big pizza pie, you know.
That's amore.
Yes, amore. And, you know, I'll give you the moon. I love you so much, I'll give you the moon. So the ultimate expression of impossibility, or the ultimate expression of I will do anything for you, even the impossible. And we went. So I want to talk a little bit about some of the reasons. There are a lot of specific reasons that the deniers give. And I prefer to call them deniers. They're not skeptics. A skeptic is somebody who says, show me the evidence, and you can convince me. A denier is like, no way, I'm not listening, no. And that's, you know, we see that in not just the moon landing, but vaccines, the climate change, and any of a number of things that we can talk about. So, may I have the next slide? I'll do the change the slide dance. So, one of the things that deniers say about why we didn't go to the moon, their proof, can be illustrated in this picture. Now, you can see there's a flag there. Now, if you look at it, it kind of looks like it's waving in the breeze. Now, a denier will look at that and go, aha!
If there's no air on the moon, where's the breeze coming from? Well, and how is it standing up if there's no breeze? So it's got a double point there. Now, the answer to that is, we can look at the flag. You look how it's kind of like almost unnaturally straight at the top. The way the flags that went to the moon were selected, NASA ordered flags from every domestic flag maker in America. They cut all the labels off, they put them in a big random pile, and they pulled out flags. And so nobody could say, my flag is on the moon, buy my brand flag. In order to make it stand up like that, it's a fairly flimsy pole. After all, weight means something when you're going to the moon. And there's, at the top, that straight beam, there is a crossbar going across the top of the flag. So that's what holds it straight out. And it looks like it's waving, and the reason for that, one reason for that, is when they put the flag in, they hammered it down really hard into the hard soil, and that left it vibrating. Now, in the lunar lack of atmosphere, it just kept wobbling, because in an atmosphere, the atmosphere would stop the wobbling fairly quickly. There it went on for quite a long time. Plus, it was kind of crinkled up to begin with, because it had to be bundled up tightly to fit in there. So it appears to be waving in the breeze, which it isn't. So we'll go on to the next slide. Change the slide. There's the flag again, but that's not why this picture's here. There's the Earth. And this brings up another point. If they took pictures of the sky, and you can see the Earth, where are the stars? Well, this goes back to basic photography. You know, they're saying if the sky's black, there's no atmosphere, where are the stars? Well, anyone who's taken photography knows that if you want to take a picture of something really bright, like the astronaut, you have to either shut the exposure way down or close down the aperture. Now in doing that, something fairly dim in comparison, like the stars, won't show up. So the stars were there. The astronauts looked up, they saw stars as much as they could through their visors, which were heavily tinted. But they don't show up in the photographs. So that's what you say if anyone ever tells you we didn't go to the moon because there are no stars in any pictures. So, let's change the slide. This illustrates another point. To many people, the moon is as real as Oz. You know, where the wizard goes and Dorothy and Toto and Scarecrow. Meaning, it doesn't exist. It's a fictional place. It's a light in the sky. It's a perfect sphere. It's a spiritual object. You can't go to a spiritual object. And this is a surprisingly much more broad idea than probably anybody in this room thinks about. One thing to think about for those of us who have been educated as to astronomy and the basics is you may not realize just the degree of ignorance out there. I'm hoping that nobody in this room right now thinks that for example, the sun goes around the Earth instead of the Earth going around the sun. But a surprisingly large number of people in this country think that the sun goes around the Earth, including, you ever watched The View? One of the women who hosts The View. A couple of years ago, there was a big controversy where she said on air that she didn't know and she didn't care and didn't understand why anyone would think it was important. Google it.
Wow.
Okay, let's go to the next slide. Mr. Andy. Now, in these brief few moments, I can't begin to cover every one of the conspiracy theories. I'm hoping that most of you have at least heard of the Mythbusters. One of their episodes, they went through some of these myths, including a couple that I just mentioned and more, in much more detail than I could. And so I would encourage you, if you have Netflix or some other service where you can watch clips or watch whole episodes online, check out the Mythbusters and their show on busting the moon landing myths. And I think you'll find that very informative. So next slide, please. And with that, I will conclude my talk. Anybody have any questions? Yes.
What, in your opinion, do you think there's any relationship between the moon landing hoaxes and the movie Capricorn 1? No, are you familiar with that?
I think Capricorn, okay, the question is, what correlation is there between the moon landing hoax ideas and the movie Capricorn 1, which is an old, crappy movie? Basically, it's about a fake mission to Mars.
No.
No, it's to Mars.
Oh, what's the Mars?
Yeah, it was a fake.
That was the moon.
No, it was Mars.
Oh, what? That was the moon.
No,
It was a moon
It was
landing.
about a fake. I read the book and seen the movie. So.
Oh, okay. All right. Never mind.
But either way, you know, the point is that it's about a fake mission to somewhere out there.
to get money.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
And
Maybe somebody
that's-
established a Capricorn 1 hoax to make it think they went to someplace else. They didn't go to someplace
yeah,
else.
I suppose you could probably, you know, they did the movie to so people say, hey, that's where it came from. Kind of like how the TV show Stargate is actually to hide the fact we really have a Stargate that takes us to other galaxies, or
Right.
something like that. So you can just go wormholing it, so to speak, you know. So I think that, personally, I think that probably somebody heard, you know, the guy who wrote the book probably thought, hey, this sounds like something to make a nice hoax out of. He probably heard the moon landing hoax way back in the beginning, decided to modify it, put it on Mars, and so I think the hoaxing came first, but then the Capricorn 1 movie probably spun it off from there.
Yeah, James. When was the first, the first doubters that came up about this tonight?
John Birch Society.
Really?
They're the ones that figured-
Was it that happened when the
in the
landings
60s.
actually happened?
It was happening while the moon landing was
They were
going
saying it's
on.
all fake. And
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm
what was
sure.
the reason for that?
Well, here's another side story. The reading of the Bible from Apollo 8 on Christmas Eve in 1968, that was because there were congressmen, the era's Tea Party, were saying that, why are we spending money to prove there's no God? So that was part of the impetus. Maybe they would have done something like that anyway, but that was part of it. So anyway, any more questions, comments? Yes?
James, I've looked at some of those websites, and they're very sophisticated with like even images that they've manipulated, and I wonder if the people that do those websites actually are deniers, or they're just love playing a huge practical joke on the world and really enjoy tricking people.
That's
Like the
good.
Flat Earth Society, they're doing it almost like it's a joke, and they
Yeah.
get off on people actually falling for
I'm sure there's some of that. There are some
They
pranksters
also
out
make
there, but
money
I
off
think most
web
of the
hits, don't they?
it. Hmm?
They make money off web hits.
Mhm.
You know.
Well, if there's some advertising or something
Yeah.
on there.
Most of them all have advertisers.
Clickbait.
But I think there are a lot of true believers, like the guy that went up to Buzz Aldrin and told him that
Yeah.
he didn't went to the moon, and Buzz
I
Aldrin
got that.
punched him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's on video.
Yeah.
It is.
So,
You can YouTube that one. It's very enjoyable.
yeah, I recently saw a cartoon with a dead woman on the moon and two astronauts saying, "It's Alice Cramden." Panorama at Kennedy Space Center. And this was associated with an article by a really good writer by the name of Joel Achenbach. And I heard him interviewed on a podcast. And actually, I'll put those links up on the Planetarium Facebook page. Really, really well-spoken guy, well-researched article, and just talking generally about this whole thing that happened with the measles outbreaks and why people aren't vaccinating their kids, and a lot of it comes down to people confuse correlation with causation. If
something happened, they're convinced why, because that's the evidence they, in their own mind, can draw a line to. And why should you trust scientists? But late in this interview, he had a really nice quote. I'm going to probably botch it by paraphrasing it, but talking about how science doesn't truck in absolute truths. It's just provisional, and in essence, science is very humble, because you're just waiting for the next truth to come along. Now, when it comes to did or did not the moon landings happen, that's maybe is more of an absolute truth. But I think everybody in society kind of needs to get back into that frame of mind of science is provisional, and anyway, again, maybe I'll dig up that quote and read it for you before the end of the program. But yeah, so we're dealing with the moon tonight, because we got this program Back to the Moon for Good.